Smite 2 has been getting a lot of attention and speculation lately, with the CEO of Hi-Rez asking people in a tweet what they want to see from Smite 2, and the recent supposed leak by an anonymous pro player claiming that Smite 2 is not far away and the SPL will be cancelled or halted after Worlds this year. I have a full video discussing the news and facts of the situation on my channel already, so if you clicked on this video having no knowledge of the recent events around Smite 2, you can check that out linked below. But at the risk of this video aging like milk, I thought I'd give some of my own thoughts as a player with over 4,000 hours across almost 10 years of playing Smite for what I think would be the ideal Smite 2 scenario if it ever materialized. So sit back, grab a beverage, and enjoy some potentially spicy takes and speculations. And again, to be clear to those still watching that aren't aware of the news, Smite 2 isn't confirmed in any way, and all we have right now are rumours and clues. But kicking things off with, in my opinion, the most important thing to have for a successful Smite 2 is carrying over progression from Smite 1 to that game. This is a bit of a hard line for me in terms of having the game succeed. For me, I would play Smite 2 regardless of losing my progression because I love Smite to death and it's a large part of my life because of this channel and our community, but for the average player who just plays the game casually, enjoys the skins and doesn't have hundreds of hours a month to pour into the game, this will be a deal breaker, I think. Many people I know, have talked to, or have seen in my comments have invested hundreds, even thousands of dollars in some cases, and thousands, even tens of thousands of hours into the game, through which they've earned progression on gods, achievements, accolades, and more. Losing all that investment of time and or money and being reset to square zero is simply not worth it for a new and potentially improved game for many players. Will it be all players? Absolutely not, but I think it will be a big enough chunk to severely hamper the success of a hypothetical Smite 2 unless a massive flood of completely new players came in and stayed to build a new core player base. Could it succeed without this? Maybe, yeah, but would it be significantly more likely to succeed with it? Absolutely. I think at the bare minimum, progression should carry over. I know at the end of the day, Smite is a business and they have costs associated with transferring over 1,000 existing skins to a new platform, potentially a new engine, and maybe having to deal with relicensing issues or rehiring voice actors for parts of it, etc. It would be extremely costly to transfer all skins, I can't understate that. And perhaps if they couldn't do all skins, they could do some. A half, a third, hell, even a quarter is better than nothing. They could maybe choose like the most popular 20 skins from each season, or just the most popular 200 skins of all, or prioritize each god getting at least one skin and maybe choose their most popular ones with tier 5s and special skins ported as extras. You could even make these legacy and unattainable anymore to reward existing Smite 1 players. Of course, I would love if all skins transferred over, but I would also love if every skin in the game was free, and even with my limited knowledge of game dev, I know that transferring every single skin will be very costly to do. Progression though, there's no excuse for that not being there in my opinion. It's not hard to implement porting of how many worshippers each player has on a god, how many pentakills they have, etc. That stuff is so much less expensive and time consuming to do than skins, as they don't have to be entirely remodeled, potentially in a new engine. On that note though, let's talk about engines for a second. So for those that don't know what a video game engine is, it's basically the platform that games get built on. They have libraries, interfaces, shaders, variables, etc. already built in, and video game developers build upon that foundation rather than completely starting from scratch every time. One of the most popular game engines in the world is Unreal Engine, made by Epic Games. Yes, that's Epic Games. Currently, Unreal is on version 5, which launched in 2022. Can you guess which version of Unreal Engine Smite runs on? Good guess, it's 3. Oh, but being 2 versions behind can't be that bad, right? Well, UE3 released in 2006, 17 years ago. There's probably a solid chance that you watching this right now weren't even born when the engine Smite is built upon released. Anyone that knows about Bethesda's creation engine will know a thing or two about what an outdated engine can do in terms of holding a game back. So the second most important thing Smite 2 must do to succeed in my eyes is upgrade to a newer version of Unreal Engine. Even if they don't want to or can't make the leap to UE5, at the very least upgrade to UE4, as until 2022 that was the engine most new games using Unreal were built upon, so it would at least catch Smite up to this decade. But if they could and wanted to future-proof Smite 2 and do the game right, going straight to UE5 if feasible would be ideal. This would massively improve the graphical fidelity, performance, and possible features Smite could have in the future, and if the engine remains UE3, you don't have the right to call it a new game in my opinion. But my third most important thing Smite 2 should have to do to succeed is bringing most or all of the Smite 1 god roster into the game at or near launch. I know there are a lot of hardliners in the community that will say every god must be there on release, no question, or they won't even play it, but I would personally be okay with them leaving some out but adding them quickly so that within a year or so we're completely caught up. Ideally without interrupting the schedule of new releases, but again, Smite is a business and that would take a lot more manpower and money to do. If my favourite god is missing on launch, I will be sad, yes, but if I'm promised that he or she will be in the game within 12 months, I'm willing to wait for that. Especially if there's some major reworks coming to problem gods in this scenario, giving me more to experiment with while I wait. Oh, and I forgot to mention this in the progression and skins section, but people's ultimate god pack purchase should absolutely carry over, and in my opinion, they should pull the trigger on adding an ultimate voice pack bundle for maybe half the price of the god pack, cheaper when bundled together with it or something. Bit of a weird addition there, but I always felt there should be an ultimate voice pack option to complement the ultimate god pack, or hell, just make the voice pack come with owning the god like it does in most multiplayer hero-based games nowadays, but for some reason I don't see Hi-Rez doing that. And the fourth most important thing I think Smite 2 needs to succeed is a pro league. Now, I know this aspect of Smite is incredibly important to people and the community as a whole, but the main reason this is fourth is purely because the three above it affect the entire player base and game, including a large percentage of the casuals that don't play the game religiously, rarely play Conquest, let alone watch SPL, and aren't as loud and vocal in the community. Plus, the alleged leak claims that SPL will be cancelled/halted for next year, and is the main reason I'm even making this video and talking about Smite 2 in the first place. That said, the SPL is still an incredibly important part of the community among its more dedicated players, and also helps with Smite being more respected within the MOBA genre and the gaming sphere at large. Not every game needs to be a competitive game, that's for sure, but Smite has branded itself as one for over 10 years and has attracted quite a lot of people who love the competitive side of it. Granted, Smite is probably the most casual MOBA that exists, at least among the big dogs like League, Dota, Paragon Clones, and HOTS. I guess Pokemon Unite might be more casual than Smite, but even that game I've heard can get fiercely competitive. Losing that large portion of Smite's identity in a reboot will deal a huge blow to its success in my opinion, not to mention taking out the livelihoods of the players and potential staff that work on SPL if they can or don't want to move to another role within the Smite team. Even if, quote, SPL 2 has a slower start with maybe just tournaments and no regular season for the first half of the year or something while it finds its footing, I think it's important that some semblance of a pro scene remains in Smite 2, both for loyal and dedicated Smite fans who've been here for years and for the new players coming into the game to see how it's done at a high level, get hyped, and maybe even learn some stuff about how the game truly works. Doubly so if they're coming from a more competitive MOBA like League or Dota, but if the leak is to be believed, which again, there's some evidence to believe it but not enough to be concrete, the SPL will be cancelled and halted after this year. But my fifth and final most important thing for this video that a theoretical Smite 2 must do is innovate. While Smite has changed a lot over the years, and if you dropped Season 0 Barracuda into a pro match from today without telling him anything, he'd be pretty confused, I do think if Hi-Rez are going to go down that road of a sequel, try to make it a sequel worthy of the actual 2 and not just a major update. This ties in a bit to the engine upgrade, but just in general, Smite 2 needs to bring something new and truly unique and innovative to make its mark on existing Smite 1 players and draw in potential first-timers to try Smite 2. I'm not saying flip the game on its head and we play as minions with the only goal of dying to a tower ASAP, but I do think some major new stuff would be essential to call the game truly a sequel. Bring back adventure modes bigger and better and actually deliver on it, unlike some other games companies I know. Overhaul dated mechanics to make the game feel more fresh and intuitive but still familiar. This is a ridiculously simple but poignant example. Why are health and mana regeneration measured every 5 seconds and displayed as HP 5 and MP 5 instead of just per second? Stuff like that, but also on a larger scale, like overhauling diminishing returns, stats rebalancing, potentially a new stat or two, though I have no immediate thoughts on what those could be. Just stuff to make the game feel like a true upgrade or sequel and not just a slightly bigger season patch, or should I now say year patch. But that's my 5 most important things a theoretical Smite 2 should do in order to succeed, and I'm gonna get real with you guys still watching till the end. If these leaks and rumours end up not being complete trolls at the end of all of this, which we'll know fairly soon as the claim is that SPL is cancelled after this year, then this will probably be the most significant event for Smite since its launch. It could bring new and old players alike into the game and improve upon the classic Smite formula we all know and love, or with a few huge mistakes, it could kill the interest people had in Smite in general if it flops in a similar way to Overwatch 2. 2. Then again, while Overwatch 2 got immense amounts of bad publicity and around the changes made and the broken promise of story mode, it was still, at least by player count metrics, a pretty successful launch. But in an ideal world, were Smite 2 to happen, it would avoid these pitfalls and others and emerge as a beacon of hope to the gaming industry and take over the world with Kuzumbo and his nenes as their overlords. Okay, I got a bit dramatic at the end there. I don't think we have to worry about that anytime soon. Or do we?